The Nerdcast Empire is on the air. We are back with another week of podcasting excellence here on the Hard Rock Empire. Episode number 86 overall for the Hard Rock Empire. Episode number 189 of the Nerdcast Empire. I am Matt in the studio. Great to have you along with us. We are back to talk the music of September the 19th. We are also going to talk some news headlines, including one story that I guarantee you probably knew we were going to talk about, and we absolutely will. And then, of course, we will get to some classic albums in the vault. And, of course, we'll wrap it up with a really interesting question this week in the Power Trio. I think you'll enjoy it. And we'll definitely want to get your thoughts in our Discord. Joining me in studio, as always, is Mike. Mike, how's it going?
Oh, man, it's going. On top of the news story that I know you're referencing, multiple announcements for Sonic Temple on top of that. So definitely have that to talk about as kind of the outline of what the lineup's going to look like as far as top to bottom is kind of taking shape. Kind of excited about what's next there, but a lot of good music to talk about today as well, so all about getting into it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an interesting week of the new music. I thought there was some unique things, and it's another one of those weeks where I, kind of went outside my bubble of what I typically pick, which makes for kind of a fun way to find some new bands to listen to. So really good stuff. We'll get to that in our second segment of this episode. But we are going to start off with news headlines, which is how we start pretty much every podcast. And with news headlines this week, we are talking about probably the biggest news, probably one of the biggest news stories of the year, to be completely honest with you, because not that it was something, it is somewhat earth-shattering, but I think it was so unexpected is what really makes this news story as big as it is. And that's the announcement that Rush, or the remaining members of Rush, obviously Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, are going to go back on tour. And they have recruited a new drummer, and they have announced dates, and tickets are in the process of going on sale for those. I just got another email from Ticketmaster to remind me of the pre-sale tomorrow, and also that there were additional dates so that I could sign up for. Make sure if you haven't, you're going to want to get that in that pre-sale, because demand is almost certainly going to be very high for these dates. There are not a ton of them, and they're not everywhere. So you're talking big cities generally. But let's get to the first piece of that, because honestly, before we even talk about whether we'll even be lucky enough to get tickets for this, is the fact that they're touring again, and I think there are a lot of people, including, obviously they were very adamant about it. We're done. This is, after the death of Neil Peart, that they were not going to tour again. And, Alex Lifeson kind of went off and did his own thing and had some success with that, and probably is going to continue to do that. And, Geddy Lee just kind of was Geddy Lee. He'd show up at some Toronto Blue Jays baseball games. Like, he's just being Geddy Lee.
Yeah.
And, they have recruited a drummer. I'll let you talk a little bit more about that, because it sounds like she's coming with quite the pedigree. And they're going to go back out on tour. And honestly, I had no idea this news was coming. But obviously, we're really excited. And I know Chris, even though he's not with us at the moment, Chris maybe as excited, if not more excited than we are about this news.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. There's no real template for how a band is supposed to react to a longtime member. And someone who undoubtedly was very close to both Geddy and Alex passes away, especially when you're talking about guys who are certainly retirement age already. There was no guarantee or even necessarily a reason for them to say, hey, let's keep going, beyond the fact that at the end of the day, they're musicians who have written some tremendous songs. And I think the reality is they missed playing them, and certainly for the fans, they missed getting to see them moving forward. So I think this is tremendous, and honestly, to frame it as also kind of a celebration of Neil, I think helps with that. But I'm hoping that we can score tickets to that, because it's a band that I'd really given up hope of seeing, obviously, but there are some outside chances again.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things that you just didn't think it was going to happen, and how were they going to go about it if they decided to go out on tour? And Anika Nilles, I'm not 100% sure how her name is pronounced. I'm sure I will learn, because she's going to be everywhere. Was announced as the new drummer. people, and I know you're going to mention, someone who we really respect his work and his videos and is well respected in the entire industry, kind of gave his thumbs up on her. But it sounded like you wondered, like, were they going to go with somebody who was really well known, somebody who was, or maybe a rotating group of drummers. You could just bring in a bunch of different drummers to
an all-star ensemble, basically.
Because who's not going to sign up for that, especially on the limited dates? I mean, even some of the big drummers who are.
I mean, you could get Mike Portnoy, but everyone knows Mike Portnoy. Like, this is an opportunity kind of to give back to music as well, and kind of go the Marty Friedman route, where it's a bunch of people that you're not used to seeing play with. So, yeah, I think it's a great move.
And Rick Beato, my understanding, gave this an absolute resounding thumbs up. And, of course, like I said, we really respect his work.
Yeah, not long after the announcement was made in my YouTube recommendations, I sure enough had the Rick Beato video talking about it. And, what I didn't know about Rick Beato, or at least I forgot about him, this is totally off topic, I didn't realize that he produced one of Fozzie's albums.
Oh.
Like, their first one of, like, all original material. Had no idea, but sure enough, that was a thing. But yeah, and I know Getty also mentioned expanding the band and bringing in someone to play keyboards, so he can actually kind of get out from behind there and interact with Anika and Alex, and kind of feel like a bassist and frontman. I think he's still going to play kind of the iconic keyboard parts, probably like your subdivisions and whatnot. But I'm curious to see how this evolves over time, and on the back end of it, do we see new music even?
That's a great question. Like, maybe. I think if there's any indication as to the demand of these shows, I think it's already kind of been seen that some of these, because you could get in through like City. If you had a City card, you could get into like super early check-in, and a lot of people were talking about that being really backed up, and you don't know how many tickets, because they don't typically release all the tickets for those. Typically, it's like a handful here and there. So we'll certainly see if it's kind of one of those things that we see a quick instant sellout, and how much tickets are, because obviously we don't even know that either. But
I'm thinking the basement's going to be probably like $300 if I had to guess.
Yeah, for sure, which is a ton, honestly.
Yeah.
But again, I have a feeling they're going to sell them out. So,
well, absolutely.
If it makes sense, if demand is that tight, and again, they've added 2 additional shows in cities where they already had 2 shows, and 1 additional show in cities where they already had 1 before they ever put the tickets on sale. So they kind of knew with the signups that they didn't have enough shows to cover it. The notable ones in this area, Cleveland is going to get 2 shows in September. There's going to be 4 shows in Chicago coming up in July, I believe. Obviously, other big cities, L.A., I believe, New York, Toronto maybe as well. So there are dates out there. I think you can probably check on that story I just pasted into the chat. Almost certainly has the dates or a link to them. We'll see. We'll see how quickly those tickets go, but I have a feeling it's going to be pretty fast.
It was funny earlier. I was looking up just random news stories about it, and I did a Google search for like Rush returns, and one of the websites that had a story about it that I showed up in my search results was from the AARP website.
Well, I mean, those guys are in their 70s, so
yeah, it's like, well, clearly, if you're old, you probably like Rush, and you probably have the money to actually go see them. The other thing I was thinking about too, and this is kind of an unrelated story that broke last week. It was another one of those like David Ellefson kind of crapping on Dave Mustaine stories. But he made the comment that he's not sure if this is truly a farewell or if it's just a ploy to boost ticket sales. And to that, my thought is, you never know when the real farewell is.
Yeah.
But every next tour is more likely to be the last tour.
Yeah.
And I think at Dave's age, and obviously with Rush now coming back, you really don't know if the next time you can see them is the last time. So why should that affect you? If you want to see them, go see them.
Well, I mean, Ozzy passed away just days after his last show.
Yeah.
And, we've seen Billy Joel have health problems, have to cancel a bunch of his shows, and certainly not sounding great on that front. It's just, the one thing we talk about, get out there, support bands, see them live. Like, that goes for all the bands we talk about, regardless of where they're at. But especially if they've been around a while, because you just don't know when the last time for them is, when the last time for you is. Like, none of us know. So when you get that chance, you got to take advantage of it. And obviously, a lot of people are going to take advantage of this. And the whole, I didn't pull that story for the podcast with Ellison because it does get a little tiresome that he's just constantly on about that. Like,
you can't say that and then say, well, if he wants to call me and have me as part of this farewell tour, it's just like, come on, man, pick a lane.
Yeah, and if they are doing it to boost ticket sales and Dave gets to the end of 2026 and is like, you know what, I still feel good, I want to keep doing this, who's going to complain about that?
Yeah.
Like,
the reality is, at his age, he could already be on his third or fourth farewell tour. The fact it's taken him this long to commit to, hey, this is the farewell tour, I think that's something.
It is. So, again, take advantage of these opportunities when you get them. We'll certainly update you when we return in a couple of weeks on where this ended up and whether we ended up with tickets and how that all worked out. But yeah, if you're interested, you're probably going to want to get that, block out some time on your Monday morning. If you're fortunate enough to have the work day off like some people, maybe a good time to do that. Doing it on Canadian Thanksgiving, as it turns out. So
Fitting,
I guess. But yeah, really, I mean, it's exciting news. Whether we get to go see them or not, very excited. The hope would be that they're doing well enough and the tour does well enough that maybe there will be more tour dates added so that people who don't get to get in this first round will still get to see the band if they want to do that later on down the road. So that is certainly the exciting news of the week. Not that the Sonic Temple news isn't exciting, but like Mike said, a couple of announcements from them this week. We got another cluster of bands announced, which is expected, and we can talk about that. Another headliner announced. Well, let's start with the cluster of bands announced. That was on October 10th. So that was 2 days ago on Friday. You had Amon Amarth, which I had not realized had not been to Sonic Temple. Were they at Rock on the Range at any point, or are we just being semantic?
That's a good question. I'd have to look into that.
Because I saw, you got Body Count, Sepultura, Creator in Flames, and Devil Driver as well. And then somebody in the comments said that Body Count was there at Rock on the Range in 2018. So, question mark. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Definitely an interesting group of bands that are all lumped together. What kind of stands out for you with this group?
Yeah, I've not seen Amon Amarth. I think that would probably be a pretty wild show. Ice-T, as far as just name value goes, that's certainly something. I'm not a huge Body Count fan necessarily.
Right.
I think Sepultura is shutting it down not too long, so it could be one of your last times to see them. In Flames puts on a good show. I saw them a few years back. Creator being one of those just legendary 80s thrash bands from Germany, I think, they're one of those bands wouldn't be bad to mark off your list. And, I kind of feel the same about Devil Driver. If I had the opportunity to see them, I'd be for it, but I'm probably not going to necessarily seek them out.
I mean, that is the ultimate festival option. That if I'm there and they're playing, I'll watch them. If not, I won't worry about it. But
yeah.
The other announcement, obviously, the next headliner, Bring Me the Horizon. Also coming with Motionless in White, The Plot in You, and Amira Elfiki. I don't know who that is.
I'm not familiar with
that. They don't even have a
artist.
link on Facebook. But thoughts on that? Because Motionless in White, I really only know from the Rhea Ripley entrance theme, which totally put them on the radar with me. And obviously they've killed it, and she's killed it. So they're certainly getting a lot of exposure there. But thoughts on the new headliner?
Yeah, I've never really delved into Bring Me the Horizon's material. I know there are people excited about it, so that's certainly one thing. I'm not gonna say I'm disappointed because I do believe that they're the headline-worthy act. It's just not one that I'm gonna key in on. It's kind of like Linkin Park this past year. If I see them, great. If not, whatever. Motionless in White I feel like has a lot of buzz right now, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The Plot in You I think they had actually previously announced, but they're a part of that tour with Bring Me the Horizon, so they kind of regrouped them back together. Amira Elfiki, I don't know what that is. I'll have to look into that for sure. Yeah, I was looking on their website, and I think the total now of bands they've announced is 41.
Okay.
The way their website is laid out with different spots for announced acts, it looks like they're going to have about 152 bands. So still a lot to go as far as announcements. I'm curious if they continue with this 5, 6, 7 band chunks, or if they start slowing it down. Kind of in light of them increasing the amount of acts that they announced this week, I've kind of expanded the bands I'm excited for up to a top 8.
Okay.
Mostly unchanged. There are a couple additions, but still kind of looking at STP as like the big one I want to see.
Yeah.
Followed by Cradle of Filth, In Flames, definitely
Sure.
a cool band. Atreyu, Death Clock, Creator, My Chemical Romance, Hawthorne Heights. That's kind of where I'm sitting right now. So we'll see the next couple weeks how that changes.
A couple other things just to note from their Facebook page. Obviously, we mentioned the bands they announced last week. A couple notes on them. They mentioned Saliva is going to be celebrating the 25th anniversary of Every 6 Seconds as part of this event. And evidently, the band Soil had not been to the U.S. in over 2 years. So this is them coming back to the U.S. To perform. So if you have not had a chance to see them and you're a fan, this is a good opportunity for that. So, yeah, and Chris is here to say love some Soil. Who doesn't? I love Topsoil. I love, maybe Mulch occasionally. I feel like that's a Dusty. Dusty should be here to talk about that. But
now the Saliva thing's interesting, too, because they don't have Josie Scott in the band anymore. And I know he's been pretty vocal lately about kind of trashing the band, talking about them being some sort of like knockoff version of Saliva. So I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah, well, somebody in the comments of that post said, like, why is Josie Scott and his band not coming? Like, so, yeah, certainly.
I just want him and Chad Kroger to tour together and just do nothing but the Spider-Man song.
Hero. That was an all-time classic, let's be real. As far as, like, sappy rock songs.
So good.
That was about as good as it gets. So those are news headlines. We'll keep you up to date on Sonic Temple announcements. Obviously, they will continue to come out. We'll keep you updated as we go forward. But good time to remind you to check out our website, nerdcastempire.com. Of course, you can listen to previous episodes of the Nerdcast Empire. You can find those archived as well on Twitch and on YouTube. We are monetized on Twitch. Feel free, if you'd like, to use your Prime subscription to drop us a subscription. We'd really appreciate that. Doesn't cost you a thing. You get to use it once a month. We would really appreciate the support. Good time to mention, we will not be with you next Sunday night. I will be in Las Vegas for work next Sunday night, which sounds like something you would make up for an excuse to go to Vegas, but I can assure you that I would not be paying the hotel prices that I'm getting for staying in this hotel if I was going on my own. But I'll be in Vegas next weekend for work. So our next episode will be coming up a week from Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be back with you. That'll be the music of September the 26th. And then we'll come back that Sunday night with our regularly scheduled time. It'll be the music of some date in October. It'll be the first week in October. So, third. There you go. So October 3rd. So, that'll give us a little more time
Second, I'm sorry.
Second.
I can't read calendars.
So, that'll give us a little more time to get next week's episode ready. We'll have it on the Wednesday, and then basically gives us 2 weeks to get ready for the music of the 2nd. So you'll get 2 that week, assuming that I don't have any travel issues getting back from Nashville. It was supposed to be back on Saturday night, but I have like a 45-minute layover in Detroit, so fingers crossed that I can actually make that plane flight. Home of RoboCop. I've been stuck in Detroit before at the airport, so we'll hopefully not repeat that. But yeah, obviously, join our Discord. It's pinned in the chats. It actually was pinned in the chat, but I think we had a bobble with our internet, which made it unpin in the chat. So let's repin it in the chat on Twitch. I believe it's already still pinned on the YouTube side. But join our Discord. We will post our stream schedule in there. We'll also let you answer our question of the week, or you can suggest questions of the week for us in our Power Trio. So please join us there. That's kind of where all the stuff happens for our stream. It is time, once again, as it is each and every week, to get to the new music for this week. And, of course, each and every week, Mike will go through and he will cultivate a playlist of all of the new albums that are released for a given date. That given date in question this time is the 19th of September. And then once he does that, he will go through and pull a track off of those onto this playlist. And then he'll go through and judge them. And then I'll go through and we basically pick 2 new albums each to talk about on the podcast. This was an interesting week. There was a lot of stuff that was kind of different this week.
Yeah.
I think this was another one of those weeks where there was variety in the sound, which makes for an interesting week. It also when you don't maybe have as much time to go through the music, it makes it tough because there's some stuff it's like, man, I'd really like to get deeper into this album to find out if it's something I really like. So we encourage you to go check out Mike's playlist. I'm sure there's stuff on there we won't talk about on the podcast that are probably things that you should definitely want to pick up. But before we get to our official picks, Mike, what kind of stands out on the playlist as far as things that maybe people need to have an eye on that we're not necessarily going to talk about?
Yeah, just some noteworthy things. Kind of from more major acts, we have Dead with their new album Resent. Mike Tramp with his Songs of White Lion Volume 3. You know, it's funny. If I'd never heard Mike Tramp before, I would really enjoy his vocals in 2025. But man, like, it's tough because he still sings really well, but it's not the same voice.
Yeah.
It's not, White Lion had such a upper register vocal delivery, and it's kind of weird now. Motion City soundtrack with their new one, The Same Old Wasted Wonderful World, and the Tron Ares soundtrack from Nine Inch Nails came out as well. As far as anniversaries and re-releases, we do have Camelot with their Ascension 1995 to 1998. That is a box set of their first 3 albums remastered with bonus tracks. And again, another time that you're going to feel old, Kitty, the Canadian metal band, releasing Spit 25, an EP of 4 re-recorded tracks from their 1999 Spit album. That's about it, but I do kind of have a side quest that I've been on over the last few months. As we go through the music, I've been trying to compile as many cover songs that I run into as possible, and we did get 2 show up for me today. One on an album that I did not pick. The band Structure Sounds released an album, Stolen Sounds EP, with a really good cover of The Weeknd's Blinding Lights.
Oh, okay.
Definitely worth checking out. And one that I'll talk more about later, the band Killer's Confession out of Cleveland. They did a cover of Nirvana's Heart-Shaped Box on their new album. So
Okay.
Slowly building an arsenal of cover tracks from this year, but that's what I'm up to.
One other new release I wanted to mention, just because we're going to talk about it, or I'm going to talk about it again when we get to the vault, is Oliver Hartmann has a new release this week. I have not listened to the whole thing yet. What I have heard of it is really good. I just didn't want to double up on Oliver Hartmann this week because I'm going to talk about one of his classic albums in the vault. But definitely, you definitely need to check that out. If you're a fan of the AOR type sound, and he's got, as we'll talk about in the vault, he's got a really great pedigree. He's been with a lot of different bands, has guested on a lot of bands that we've talked about on this podcast. So he's really awesome. Definitely encourage you to check out his new album, but we'll talk a little bit more about him when we get to the vault. But with that said, it is time to get to the new stuff for this week. And Mike, you will kick us off with your first choice. What do you have for us first?
Yeah, so for my first choice, I'm going with the 7th full-length studio album from this Italian heavy/power metal band. They are Airborn, and this is part 3 of a concept album series, Lizard Secrets Part 3, Utopia.
Yeah, when I saw these guys on the list, I knew one of the two of us was probably going to end up picking these guys. They're really good, and I've not had the chance to listen to all this yet, but I'm really excited to get into this album.
Yeah, my takeaway is just this is a really solid album. I'm not totally certain what the storyline is. I feel like jumping into it in part 3, and one of the reviewers I read on it kind of made the point that like for a concept album, there aren't really any like narrative tracks or like, hey, here's what the story is as you go through, kind of like a Mind Crime where there are those tracks that clearly are there for plot progression.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of that here. It was just good songs. But yeah, these guys formed back in 1996. We have Robert Capuccio on guitars, Alessio Perardi on vocals, guitars, and keyboards, Domenico Berardi on bass, and Gianluca Lucchi on drums. For the playlist, I pulled the track In Utopia. And pretty much immediately, like the galloping guitar right at the beginning of that song, I was like, okay, I need to listen to this. This is already up my alley. Pretty much had me hooked from that moment on. Vocals are good, clean power metal vocals. They're not super over the top. They're just melodic. I'm totally fine with that. I mentioned this is part 3 of their Lizard Secrets trilogy of concept albums. It follows 2018's Lizard Secrets Part 1, Land of the Living, and 2020 Lizard Secrets Part 2, Age of Wonder. So probably need to go back and check those out at some point just to maybe understand the story. Like I said, since I haven't listened to them, I don't really know what entirely is going on, but with track titles like Soldiers of Misfortune, Lizard Detective Agency, and Steel Rat, I'm certainly intrigued. Like, there's something really wild going on with this album. Standout tracks on the album include Kings of Melody, In Utopia, Forever's a Long Time Coming, Magic Bullet, Soldiers of Misfortune, easy for me to say, and the track that I picked to listen to, the song Midnight Riders.
Check these guys out. This is Airborn with their new release, Lizard Secrets Part 3, Utopia. This is the 5th track off of this album, Midnight Riders. Let's listen to a little bit of this now.
On the streets of tomorrow, we were raised on the wheels of thunder till the end of the line. We're midnight riders, engines ready for the fight.
Yeah, it's got a great sound. I mean, it just, sometimes you just hear these songs on the playlist and just think, yeah, I mean, one of the two of us is going to think this is worthy of being picked, and I'm not surprised to see you pick it. Like, yeah, I guess I do need to go back and listen to the parts 1 and part 2 to see if I can piece the whole story together, but overall, what I've heard so far, I really have dug.
Yeah, it's really good, and when you think of kind of the different components of power metal or metal in general, you feel like they didn't dial any of them to 10.
Yeah,
They're all
yeah.
kind of like at a very comfortable 8. So like there's not that one thing you're like, this stands out. This is just so different, so unique. No, it's just quality.
It seems like a band who's done it long enough to kind of figure out what they want it to sound like, and
Yeah.
it's not any member of the band saying, oh, well, the guitars have to be way out front or the vocals have to be way out front. Like, they just kind of got a good mix, and it makes the whole thing so much more enjoyable to take in because there's not that one thing hitting you over the head.
And I think that really helps for concept albums.
Yeah.
Because I think everything needs to be really clear. I think if I gave it more time and really paid attention to the lyrical content of all 3 albums, the story would kind of gel, kind of like a shadow gallery situation. Like, there may not be, okay, here's the story, here's how it goes in track 1, then we're going to feed into track 2. You don't have that, but at the very least, you understand what's going on in the songs.
Yeah, for sure. But really good stuff. Check out Airborn, their new release out on September the 19th. As always, you have 2 picks each and every week. What do you have for pick number 2?
Yeah, so kind of like to your point earlier, with the wide variety of music we had on the list, I really wanted to pick something that isn't something I would normally pick. And man, I was debating between several options, and I ended up going with this one. It's the newest album from an alternative metal band out of Cleveland, Ohio. The album is Victim 2, and the band is A Killer's Confession.
I mean, first off, love Ohio bands. Any chance
Yeah.
we get to feature Ohio bands? We were almost in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, maybe these guys could have picked up Symphony X somewhere along the highway and took them to the venue. That'd been cool.
But no, these guys definitely stood out as far as the tracks on the list. So, yeah, definitely interested in hearing more about them.
So yeah, as I did some research into these guys, they started in 2016 by Waylon Rivas, who was former singer for Mushroom Head.
Oh.
So definitely a dude who's well versed in kind of the modern metal sound. Band consists of him on lead vocals and programming, JP Cross on bass, and he plays guitars when they tour, Richard Thomas on keyboards and vocals. And then I thought it was interesting on the Wikipedia page for them, their lineup kind of varies between the studio and what their touring lineup is. In the studio, they have Dustin Bowles on guitars, drums, programming, and songwriting, and Evan McKeever on vocal production and songwriting. And then touring, they had Daniel Fox for drums and Steve Watson for guitars. Typically, a band I pick isn't going to have a bunch of people who have programming and production as what they do in the band. That's typically not my thing. Like, I enjoy metal, but I'm not big into metal with a lot of electronic elements to it. That being said, these guys do it really well. It's you can't really deny, and for something that I feel like a lot of bands do nowadays, it's when it's something that I can still enjoy and I can kind of bring it back to what I get into about metal. I think it's good. I mentioned earlier, these are the guys who did the cover of Nirvana's Heart-Shaped Box. Not a big Nirvana fan necessarily, but this is a really good cover. Standout tracks on the album include In Case of Emergency, Baptized by the Fire, Dark Side, Hand of God, and the track that we're going to listen to, Hopeless Gray.
Check these guys out. This is A Killer's Confession with their new album, Victim 2. This is the opening track off of that album, Hopeless Gray. Let's check these guys out now.
I am the dark side of light, a lovely shade of the night, slipping through the cracks into the deepest black, and I will never let you go, never let you go. I am the rouge on the grave, I am the endless decay, the taste of fate, the ending that you can't erase. Return back.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because my first impression of the music of that is there are a lot of bands we listen to week in and week out that have that music style, and then the vocals come in and kind of ruin it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you got the double kick, and you know you're bringing and then it's just like the most grating death metal, not even vocals, because that's not even the right word, just some sort of noise that comes out of the lead singer that's just, it ruins the whole thing. You hear the singing pick up here, and it's like, yes, that is, you guys figured it out. Like, that's what it's supposed to sound like with this music. It's not melodic and over the top, but it's not grating. It's enjoyable. It's got good harmonies. Like, there's a good sound there, and it fits perfectly in with that powerful music and the double kick and the things that are just that bring kind of the heft to the song. And then you, like you said, you throw in a little bit of the electronic sound as well with the vocals, which is kind of unexpected. You don't really think you're going to hear that in a song that kind of sounds like that. But again, it kind of works because it's just something totally different. Brush fire vocals. That's a good way. Yeah, I really, what I've heard of these guys so far, I've really dug it, and I really want to check this whole album out.
Yeah, I feel like these guys have a pretty good balance between what I would consider new metal and modern metal.
Yeah.
And I think that helps. You still get tolerable vocals, like it doesn't just jump into deathcore or even metalcore so much. There is some roughness there, but there's still just a lot of melody, which I like.
Yeah, I really want to check more of these guys out. Really enjoyed what we've heard so far from these guys. But check out A Killer's Confession. Their new album is out on September the 19th. It is time to give you my two picks as well. We're going to start things off with something we see a lot on this podcast, and we like to, when it's really good, we like to focus on it and feature it. But this is a talented musician from Sweden who kind of has his own project here. This is the Theander Expression with Chaos, Dreams, and Love. This is a project of Andre Theander, founded in 2013. Looking from the website, it said that the album and its lyrical themes are the usual depictions of Andre's personal life and the world around, modern society and human psychology. The music is best described as a return to the traditional AOR sound that fans have been asking for years. So I don't know what he went to there for a while, like, but I kind of want to know, like, because this is very AOR, but he did it really well. People involved in this include Andre, as we mentioned, Theander, also Christian Eriksen, formerly of Work of Art, and Christopher Sarnefalt of Planet Indigo. He's also brought in some guest vocalists here and guest artists, including Chandler Mogul of Cap Outrun and Double Vision, Andrew Freeman from the Last in Line and Ex Lynch Mob, and August Rauer from Cray. I'm not sure. Creye is the name of the way the band is spelled. Other musicians include Johan Ludwig Rask on drums and percussion, and Bob Fridzema on Hammond organ.
Nice.
Really enjoyable, really catchy AOR release. There are some songs that are a little more bluesy. I really all the vocals I thought were good. I really enjoyed Andrew Freeman, especially on the track we're going to play here on the podcast. I really felt like his vocals had a Lou Gramm quality to them. I think you'll hear that in this sample track, and that, of course, is never a bad thing. But overall, obviously, Theander's really talented, and he's brought in a lot of talented people to work with, and they've kind of knocked it out of the park, and a lot of the reviews I saw of this from AOR websites really thought highly of this release, and I certainly understand why. Standout tracks include The Pursuit of Serenity, Too Many Miles, Too Little Time, Do You Ever Intend to Stay, or Did You Ever Intend to Stay? And the song we're going to listen to on the podcast is Free with a Broken Heart. So check this out real quick. This is the Theander Expression from the new album Chaos, Dreams, and Love. This is the 8th track off of this album, Free with a Broken Heart, featuring Andrew Freeman on vocals. Let's listen to a little bit of this now.
'Cause I'm headed now to a place where I can breathe. Yeah, yeah. It's a place where I don't have to worry about infidelity or jealousy. Now I'm out on my own. Spend the days just doing what I want. And I love it, 'cause the best is yet to come. The day I had to leave was a brand new start for me. 'Cause now I'm free, free with a broken
But yeah, I thought, of the tracks on the album, I thought this one was one of the hardest ones, and the vocals, obviously the guitars you heard come in there, really impressive as well. But overall, I really enjoyed this. Really, probably the best as far as AOR had to offer this week, and a week that was pretty light on AOR releases. But really good stuff from these guys. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I knew just listening to the track from the playlist that this was going to be a contender. What I love about what you played was, even though like the vocals were really strong, like the entire time in the background, even just the verse riff on the guitar is like extra intricate for your typical like AOR rock song. It's like it's clear that the guitarist is the star of the show, even when he's not pushing himself past the lyrics or the vocals.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I really felt like a Foreigner, Lou Gramm feeling to this song in particular. I definitely want to check out more of Andrew Freeman's work, because that dude, I feel like somebody at Frontiers needs to get this guy on the phone.
It's funny you mentioned that, because you mentioned that the guy from Double Vision's was a part
Yes.
of like the collaborative process, and that wasn't even him.
Yeah.
So.
It's like, that's kind of crazy, but no, it's really, really good stuff from these guys. Definitely check them out. It's one of the stronger AOR releases we've had in a while. Definitely worth your time. Second pick this week for me, we are going to Germany, one of our favorite places to visit, and we're going to be talking about a metal band. And again, as Mike mentioned and I mentioned earlier, wanted to kind of get outside the box, because there were a lot of different outside the box type picks. So we're going with kind of a metal band / alternative metal band from Germany. This is Surrender the Crown with Travails. These guys just definitely not AOR, definitely a little bit different than what I typically pick, but I really enjoyed this album. Founded in 2011, currently the band is made up of Matthias Braun on vocals, Patrick Meyer on guitars, Oliver Quinton on bass, and Matthias Schmidt on drums. This album, it talks about 12 brand new songs that revolve around the difficult times in life, and the fact that in the end it's worth it not to lose hope. I think if you listen to this album, you're gonna hear the influences with Disturbed. You just can't miss it. They were also compared in some of the reviews to Shinedown and Creed. I didn't hear the Creed as much, unless maybe it was earlier in their career. But Disturbed, definitely strong influence. Shinedown, maybe a little bit less. But the album's really good. The songs are all really good hard rock alternative album. They're writing songs that are catchy, but certainly a lot harder than the AOR stuff I picked. It honestly sounds like something that would be on regular rock radio today. Like I think, it's always good to come across that stuff, because we need more music like this spotlighted on regular terrestrial radio. If you listen to us in Europe, they're touring Germany right now, so you want to go check these guys out, you can definitely do that. I definitely encourage it if their live performances or anything like their album. I'm sure it would be a really good time. Standout tracks include Stand in Defiance, Signal in the Noise, Trigger the Shift, and the song we're going to play is the title track, Travails. So let's check these guys out. This is Surrender the Crown with their new album, Travails. This is the title track, as I mentioned, track number 3. Let's listen to a little bit of this now.
Seems in vain, but I guess it's the way now. Fake a smile till the sadness is gone. No one ever would have chosen these travails, as they always come with much greeting. Since we're only learning now what life entails, we had better try and find some meaning.
Hate to bail on a drum solo because we don't get enough of those in our music picks. But, yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, you definitely hear the influences there. But overall, it's a really, really good album. Definitely encourage you to check it out. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I enjoyed what I heard of this. This was kind of like going to be my safety pick if I couldn't come up with anything else as far as what I wanted to pick to highlight. I wanted something a little different, but this was solid. I immediately thought Disturbed, and sometimes the singer kind of almost has like a Volbeat thing going on, like kind of a mix between him and David Draymond. But yeah, it's just rock that you'd expect to hear on radio and don't, but certainly nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and the thing to me that made these guys kind of stand out, maybe even more so than the bands you mentioned, is like Volbeat. I can only listen to so much Volbeat, and it's just like, we got to stop.
Yeah.
And Disturbed, I think even as much as I like Disturbed, kind of feel the same way. I got through this whole album, and it's like, I want to hear more from these guys. Like, I didn't feel like I was tired of that vocal sound. So, and I think part of it is because the music is much more straightforward rock, I think, than what you hear from those two bands. So those vocals just work really well with it, but it doesn't wear you out. Like, overall, it was really enjoyable.
Well, I think it also matters, too, that this is the first album of this band you've listened to, as opposed to how many Disturbed albums over the year. I don't necessarily believe their music would go stale, but it hasn't really had an opportunity yet either. So.
Sure.
But yeah, I get it. This is definitely unique enough, but familiar at the same time.
Yeah, definitely check those guys out. Surrender the Crown, their new release out on September the 19th. That takes care of our new music for this week. It is time to get to the vault, where Mike and I will each talk about a couple of classic albums you need to check out. Mike is going around the world. He is basically each and every week now going to his computer, hitting a button that gives him a random country in the world, and then he has to come up with a metal band to talk about on the vault. And this was probably the best you have done in this, but for those who maybe haven't been following along with this exercise, kind of catch us up to where you've been hunting for Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah, I found Eartha Brute, amazingly enough, and I've not found the warrant yet, but yeah. So this started a few weeks back. I thought it was cursed right off the bat, because the very first country I dialed up through the randomizer was Namibia, which, again, not a hotbed for metal, as it turns out. Who knew? From there, we went on to Israel, which had better options, Uganda, which was pretty slim pickings as well. Then to Vietnam, which had its own challenges as far as finding bands that had music readily available for me to consume. Then on to Turkmenistan, which we survived that one and found a band, which was pretty awesome. But this week we got a softball. The randomizer that I clicked last week in our episode gave me the Ukraine, which, if nothing else, has a vibrant music scene.
Yeah, and not surprising. Obviously, anytime you have a country that's been going through the things that they've been going through, it's certainly... music is a great outlet for those sorts of things. And I think even before all that, they were pretty well known for their rock. I mean, we've talked about European metal almost nonstop on this podcast. So not surprising to hear that Ukraine has a pretty good metal scene.
Yeah, so on the Metal Archives website, when you search by country, there are 1,641 listings for bands out of the Ukraine. Quite a few of them, I think over 900, were still listed as active, so... pretty much every genre of metal you want covered is being done by somebody. The one I ended up going with, one minor challenge is I really wanted something, like when I went through and filtered the genres, my first thought was I want something that has like folk in the name, just to get some sort of flavor of what's folk music for people in the Ukraine.
That's fair.
The problem when I did that was the active bands I found all had names that were in like the Cyrillic alphabet.
Oh.
And their albums were, and their song titles were. So I thought, man, that's going to be a hurdle for me. So let me just give up on that and search for power metal bands. And I ended up finding one that they're a relatively new band. They have one album. They started in 2010. But that album came out in 2021. They are the band DeLorean, not spelled like the car. And the album is It Is Time.
Yeah, it's was Google just did not want to understand that their name was. Did you mean DeLorean? Sure? No, I know what I'm looking for. So, but yeah, definitely interested in hearing about these guys.
Yeah, so this is their debut album. They are from Kharkiv, Ukraine. They are a symphonic power metal band. Their band consists of Alex Pivovarov on drums, keyboards, and vocals, Yaros Krasa on guitars, and Theo Ruzinski on vocals and bass. You know, when you review any album, you kind of have to consider where a band is in their development. I did find one review for this album, and it gave them a 7.5 out of 10, which is fine, but it kind of pointed out some weaknesses maybe in the lead singer's vocals, and maybe not, like, they were high on the music production, just it was kind of like, hey, it sounds like this band, we'll see what they do from here. And that was kind of my thought, is you can't compare this to a band who you're listening to the 7th album of. Like, they're just in different stages of their development as a band.
Yeah.
That being said, it's a strong album. If I were to go back and revisit the top metal albums of 2021, it may not make the list, but that's, again, this is their debut. Like, not expecting them to move mountains here.
Yeah.
You know, they are listed as active, so I'm kind of curious where they're going to go from here. You know, if you like symphonic metal, there's really nothing to not like about it. I think the compositions are great. The singer, I think sometimes you have a certain expectation when a band is a symphonic metal band.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be fair. I thought he did fine. I'm curious to see what if they do have more albums. I mean, this was 2021. Their first album came out after being formed in 2010, so we could be still a ways off from a second album. But I'd be curious to hear what they've done from then. Album's 9 tracks, 47 minutes, and it's just for debuts. How debuts go, it's quality.
Yeah.
Standout tracks include "Say It," "Following the Sun," "Child of Time," "Not Alone," and "The Dawn." You know, if I wanted to, there's still a lot more in the Ukraine I could dive into, but I think the band that I found definitely made it worth it.
There you go. So if you're looking for a Ukrainian metal band, DeLorean would be a good choice. And again, that album is out there and available. I found it on YouTube Music, and I'm sure you can even pick it up potentially.
Finding a physical copy, I didn't really have a whole lot of luck on. I could keep searching, but definitely on YouTube Music. So
yeah, so it's out there streaming. So definitely check those guys out. That's Mike's pick for his trip around the world, which means before we get to my vault pick, it's probably time for Mike to click the button again and find out where he's headed for not next week. Again, we won't be here next Sunday. Our episode 4 next Sunday will air next Wednesday, or a week from Wednesday. So he's going to have some extra days if he gets another Turkmenistan to try to dig up another band. And again, do want to point out, and although he's done a pretty good job with some obscure countries, if we pick a country that there just simply is not metal music there, we'll pick another country. And so... which, I mean, he'll be able to kind of figure out probably while I'm rambling about my vault pick. But it's time to hit the generator and find out where he's going next.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
Wow.
We've had a band from there already.
We have.
On our podcast.
We have, so it's entirely possible that you may end up being able to find...
It might be that band again.
It might be that band again. Where are you headed, Mike?
I am headed to the scenic archipelago of the Faroe Islands.
The Faroe Islands.
Stunning landscapes, abundant wildlife, and a vibrant fishing culture.
There you go. So the Faroe Islands. Definitely curious to find out how many...
What is that?
How many bands are there. But yeah, we definitely did have a band from the Faroe Islands.
So there are ads on that page, you might have noticed.
Yes.
And I guess because I was looking up stuff about Rush earlier, they were all like Rush-related products.
Like,
I've been recommended the Rush Golden Ale Mustard. It's $10.99. I may have to try it out. Maybe we could do that on an episode sometime. But yeah, Faroe Islands, here we come.
There you go. So that'll be a week from Wednesday when we come back for another episode. Definitely join us to find out what Mike is. Maybe Mike will find somebody else in the Faroe Islands. We'll let you know in a couple weeks. But time for my vault pick, and I've already mentioned him, so no real surprise here what we're going with. Again, I am going through all the Frontiers bands as they are listed on Wikipedia. Should note, did look ahead. There's only one band that starts with a Q, so we're going to only spend 1 week on Q. But we're finishing up the letter O with our random pick this week, and it's interesting because the guy we're going to talk about, his albums, at least the recent ones, have been listed just under his last name, Hartmann. But when he's listed on Wikipedia on the Frontiers page, listed as Oliver Hartmann, which is why he shows up in O. So that's who we're talking about this week, and we're going to talk about his 2005 release from Frontiers Records, Out in the Cold. Going to his Wikipedia page, it says he's best known his role as a vocalist and one of the founders of the band Advance.
Nice.
He is also his own band has had guest appearances on albums of several prominent metal bands, including Freedom Call, Ed Guy, Rhapsody, Genius Rock Opera, Iron Mask, Ina's Metal Opera, Days of Rising Doom, and the metal opera Avantasia, where he participated as a vocalist in 4 albums. So,
wow. I guess I do know this guy.
Yeah,
apparently.
so like when I saw all that, I thought, I'm excited for this because clearly this guy can sing. And as I mentioned, he's got a new album out this week, which what I've heard so far is really good. 20 Times Colder, definitely check it out. The ad break came during your spins. Tell everybody.
Oh, no.
Tell everybody what your next country is again, and I'll get back to Oliver Hartmann.
Yeah, so it was kind of a shocking reveal that we missed, unfortunately, but it's somewhere that we've actually featured a band from early in the podcast, I believe. I am headed off to the wonderful Faroe Islands.
Faroe Islands is where Mike will be headed, and again, yeah, we've already had a band from there, so interested to see what Mike finds with the Faroe Islands coming up. Still not sure how to tell when we're in ad break. We'll get that figured out, but we'll get to that point. This album is AOR goodness, and again, when you hear the bands that he's been involved with, whether it's as a guest or whatever it is, you know this dude's got the pipes, and this album is just really well put together. His new album, like I said, also sounds good, and that's 20 years apart. So this guy's clearly still doing a great job taking care of his vocals because they still sound amazing. But definitely encourage people to go back to 2005 to check this one out because the whole album was really good. If I had to pick standout tracks, it includes Alive Again, Out in the Cold, Brazen, and What If I. It's great. It feels like that is the punchline to most of these Frontiers reviews I give you. This is great. If you're a fan of AOR music, it's definitely worth checking out. Next week, we move on to the letter P. And almost certainly, I know when I saw the members of the first band, because I was not familiar with the name. I'm sure you're going to be familiar with the name of this first band. It did not dawn on me until I saw the members of this first band. And like, oh, okay, then I know this is going to be good, so I can't wait to listen to it. We're going to be checking out an album. The album is called Close to the Sun by the band Place Vendrome. Place Vendrome. And, of course, the members of Place Vendrome would go on to form a little band called Unisonic. So we will be talking about that coming up next week.
Okay.
So, yeah, another Michael Kiske project that was another thing that led up to Halloween getting back together as a mega unit. But this is a Frontiers release from before Unisonic. So I'm 100% sure this is going to be awesome. I can't wait to check out this album next week on The Vault. It is time to get to the Power Trio, your hard rock hat trick, where we give you our question of the week and we have you answer. This was one of the more interesting ideas that Mike came up with in our Discord, which is another reason you need to join the Discord, so you can give us ideas for the Power Trio and you can answer our questions. So we've been talking a little bit about cover songs. We've even given, songs we want to see covered by bands. Well, this was a little bit of a different twist on this. So what if you take some of the best cover songs you know, and you basically flip the script. So you take a cover song and you take the band that was covered and make them go back and cover a song from the artist that covered their song. The best example of this obviously was involving Weezer and Toto, because Weezer covered Africa, and then Toto, kind of as a thank you, homage, whatever it may be, went back and covered Hash Pipe. So basically what we're looking for is the second piece of that second band who is covering a song from the first band, which definitely opens the door for a lot of interesting possibilities. I don't know if we got anything from Shane this week.
We did not.
I was going to say, typically when the topic is a little more complicated, it becomes a little harder to convey over text message.
Yeah.
So I had a feeling that might be the case. Chris has pasted his in the chat, which if you're in the chat on Twitch, you can see. But Mike, if you want to run those down and see if you know off the top of your head the reverse, because he didn't list the flip song, but some of these I think you may know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not familiar with what Korn covered of Pink Floyd. If I had to guess, it would probably be Another Brick in the Wall. That seems logical.
Sure.
I don't know that for sure, but yeah, I think that would be interesting. Pink Floyd's one of those bands that you would like to hear their interpretation of any number of songs, and I think Korn's Coming Undone would certainly be a good candidate.
Yeah.
The second one I definitely know because it actually is similar to one that I picked because it involves Metallica. All three parts of Brick in the Wall.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There we go. Not surprising. Yeah, like Metallica had their Garage Inc. album. They covered Astronomy. So in return, we have Blue Oyster Cult covering Metallica's Devil's Dance. I think that would be an interesting one because I feel like that the tempo of that song would probably play really well into Blue Oyster Cult. I would be curious to hear what that would sound like.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And finally, Depeche Mode covering Marilyn Manson's Tourniquet. Marilyn Manson covered Personal Jesus. Yeah, I don't even know how I feel about that, what that would be like. But yeah, that's you know, he said that they were outlandish. I think you probably could have gone even more outlandish. I didn't myself, but I think those are a little more grounded than I think what we could have come up with if we really tried.
Yeah, I like I said, I have at least one that I think might be. Maybe not super out. It's out there a little bit, so we'll see when we get to mine. But we got your picks first. So what did you go with in the Power Trio?
I didn't pick it, but as far as outlandish goes, remember we did have Steel Panther covering Backstreet Boys, so we could have very well had the Backstreet Boys covering "Thar She Blows" or "Community Property" or, I mean,
for sure,
the Shocker.
Yeah.
That would have really been something.
Yeah. If we want to pick outlandish, that is probably where you're getting out there.
Yeah. Anyway, going into mine, I mentioned Chris's pick of Blue Oyster Cult and Metallica. I went a different direction, but still off of something that occurred from Garage Inc. I would love to hear King Diamond or Merciful Fate covering Metallica's "The Thing That Should Not Be."
Yeah.
Classic. Not necessarily a deep cut. I think it's an underrated song off Master of Puppets because it's not Battery or Master of Puppets.
Sure.
But I just think it'd be really cool to have the King singing about Lovecraftian horrors. It's one of my favorite songs, and I think he would certainly do it justice.
Yeah, I would actually I'd like to hear King Diamond sing about anything, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But certainly Metallica, yeah.
And I would love for him to first go on for about 10 minutes of explaining the story of anything Lovecraft. I think that would be amazing.
If you haven't seen the video to the Puppet Master, I don't know. Like, as soon as we sign off, you should go watch that.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
that is epic.
Yeah, so when you think of artists who have been covered a lot over the years, and there are some really good covers of his work, you think of Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
I think of Megadeth doing No More Mr. Nice Guy. But I didn't go that direction. On Guar's album Beyond Hell, they did a cover of School's Out.
Okay.
So I would love to hear Alice Cooper covering Guar's Slaughterama.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I saw the Megadeth one. I knew of the Megadeth one. That was one that kind of popped into my head. And I stayed away from it because I thought, okay, that may be too obvious. But no, you definitely went the Guar route instead. And that would, Alice Cooper and Guar are not too dissimilar in the fact that their stage show and their stage presence.
Somebody's dying in the stage show.
It's so much of what they do that maybe they don't get the respect for the musicianship because the stage show is kind of so over the top. But so actually kind of makes a lot of sense to have Alice Cooper go back the other way there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, undoubtedly Guar was influenced by Alice Cooper. but a song like Slaughterama, which is kind of an offbeat song for Gwar anyway, because Dave Brockie isn't the one singing. It's Don Drakulich playing Sleazy P. Martini. But it's essentially a game show where they're murdering people for not being able to answer like comical questions. Chris in the chat mentioning, how do you hide money from a hippie? And then the guy doesn't get it right, and then they murder him. I just think Alice Cooper would be perfect playing the host of that show.
Yeah.
I need this now. Like, this one was the one, as I was putting together this list, I'm like, oh, God, this has to happen. How do we do that?
And then call Alice Cooper.
Yeah, I think he would be down for it. It sounds like something that would be right up his alley.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick.
So finally, to be topical with our news stories, I had to go the Rush route.
And I avoided Rush because I figured Chris would pick them for sure, and we didn't. But that's okay. Like, what did you go with?
I mean, there are bands who have covered Rush, so there certainly are options out there. I probably went a little obscure by most people's standards. I have Rush covering the band Deadsy, either The Key to Gramercy Park or She Likes Big Words. Give me either one.
I don't know what the shelf life on Deadsy was. Like, I don't know if they were just destined to have that one album and that was just it. I know I'm sure they had other albums, but like that was the one album that like I knew and played on the radio. And I really like those two songs. I kind of wish they would have continued on and been like hit makers and had bunches of hit albums because, yeah, I would definitely. It feels like if Rush covered them, though, there would be like a 14-minute version of The Key to Gramercy Park that involved like a bass solo or something.
That'd be so amazing.
But no, I would be down for either one of those for sure.
Deadsy just in general are kind of an interesting thing. Obviously, the front man of Deadsy is, what's his name? I had it here. Elijah Allman is the front man of Deadsy, who is the son of Cher and Greg Allman.
Yeah.
I just wonder if maybe he rubbed people the wrong way. I know in general there was kind of a short lifespan on that kind of gothic techno nu metal that was coming out. I mean, Orgy was pretty much DOA after their second album, and these guys were certainly very similar to Orgy. I don't know, but I thought they were onto something, and that album was actually pretty enjoyable. And Rush could obviously do all sorts of nonsense with that song, either song. I
just feel like they were too early. Like, you put those two bands with like Ghost and put them out on tour. Like, I feel like you're onto something there, and they're not exactly the same, but like just from a creepy aesthetic feel, like I feel like there's something there, but.
That could be.
But yeah, really, I really like that album from Deadsy, and yeah, why not?
I did have one honorable mention.
Okay.
I was listening to the band that would be getting covered the other night, and it hit me like, I'm not a big Misfits guy. I never really was. I know more of their work because of bands covering them. But I would love to hear Danzig or his version of the Misfits covering AFI's Girls Not Grey.
Okay.
AFI covered the Misfits' Halloween on their 1999 All Hallows EP. I just think it'd be funny to hear Glenn Danzig trying to sing the Davey Havok kind of gothic post-punk horror punk sounds from that album. I just, not as crucial as the first three, but I think worth mentioning.
Yeah, for sure. So, all great picks. Definitely interesting choices for sure. The first two of my three picks were tribute albums that we've talked about on this podcast. So I thought, well, this is easy. Like, I'll just pick songs off of these albums and flip them. We talked about, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Siam Shade tribute from 2010. Janie Lane did a great cover of 1/3 Pure Hearted Emotion on there. So I want to hear Siam Shade cover Uncle Tom's Cabin. Like, I think that would be great. It's just different, and Siam Shade has quite the range, so I want to hear that.
Would they translate the vocals, or would they sing in English?
English.
Okay.
Let's do it in English, or they might translate it.
Because I feel like since Janie Lane obviously sang the Siam Shade cover in English, like would they
maybe translate it to Japanese? That would be.
Otherwise, it might be kind of interesting because Uncle Tom's Cabin is such a story song. So
Yeah.
like to sing that in English when that's not your native language could be a challenge.
Yeah, so just curious to see what that would sound like. We've talked about the legacy and tribute to the Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, which Rumors obviously the opus of Fleetwood Mac. Matchbox 20 covered Never Going Back Again on that. So I want to hear Fleetwood Mac cover 3 a.m. Like, that sounds like a song that Lindsey Buckingham would sing. Like, I just feel like there's actually something there.
Yeah, that could work. I would think like If You're Gone would be another one that might be in their wheelhouse.
Yeah. Real World. Like,
Yeah.
You know, there's some options there. But
And if you wanted to like just say, I want you to cover Rob Thomas, why don't they just do a cover of Smooth?
yeah, that'd be all right too. I'd be down with that. But honestly, if you're thinking along those lines, I feel like them doing the Little Wonders or whatever, the song from the Tokyo Magnitude 8.0 AMV, which if you've never watched, you just go ahead and to be sad for the next month and go watch it. But still probably the best AMV I've ever seen.
Amazing and awful.
So those were two off the tribute albums. The third one I discovered on a Loudwire playlist of the 50 best cover songs by a metal band. Like, I didn't know this band covered this song. You might. But it led me to the reverse. Did not know that Anthrax covered Carry On Wayward Son. The cover of it is great. If you've not heard it, you should definitely look it up. It was on their For All Kings deluxe box set in 2016.
I don't think I have the deluxe box set.
So I want to hear Kansas covering Indians. Because, like, a lot of their stuff is punk, so I don't know if that works with Kansas. Indians is a little bit different because it's kind of got some different tempos, and it feels a little more progressive punk type than some of their other stuff.
I would think that Medusa would probably be a good one.
Medusa, yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was. I thought that was okay. This is going to be out there. Let's have Kansas covering Anthrax.
No, I like that idea.
But yeah, everybody should go listen to the cover of Carry On Wayward Son. Not a surprise. We talk all the time about the vocal talents of Joey Belladonna, so no shock that this cover sounds amazing. But yeah, you know what? I'll pick one that's out there. And there's lots of other great options, and we could honestly do this and just pick the most obscure, outrageous potential, like Mike mentioned, the Backstreet Boys cover. So, but yeah, let us know. Join the Discord. It's pinned in the chats. Let us know who you would pick. We got reverse cover. Who's going to cover a song that from an artist who has covered them? Just something a little bit different, but something that's a lot of fun there on the Hard Rock Empire. That is going to wrap things up for this week of the Hard Rock Empire. Reminder, one more time, we will not be with you next Sunday. I'm going to be on the road. We'll be back a week from Wednesday night. That will be the 22nd of October, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we'll be back that Sunday night on the 26th for our regular edition. So the week of September, the music of September 26th will be coming up a week from Wednesday. And then we'll be back with the music of October the 2nd, the following Sunday. Big thanks to Chris for joining us in the chat. A big thanks to Mike, as always, for putting all this together. A big thanks to Stove Lake Media for their continued support of our podcast. And a big thanks to you whenever and wherever you are listening to our podcast. Join us again a week from Wednesday for another special edition of the Hard Rock Empire. Until then, don't forget to join the Empire, the Nerdcast Empire.